Hey everybody, thank you for coming. Welcome to Town Hall number 10 of the ExO Economy. We're so happy to have you here. We've got a special guest who's just going to augment the conversation we just had last Friday. So we had a conversation with Peter Diamandis, Salim Ismail, and Eric Poulier on the spatial web and NFTs. And we're going to extend that conversation with a real world example with our new speaker today. So let me get you right to it and introduce our host. It's Kent Langley. He's our COO of ExO Economy and OpenExO Inc. And he's the mastermind behind the blockchain and the ExO's token. So take it away, Kent.
Thank you, Nikki. So great to be back again for the 10th Town Hall.
Yes.
Over how many months? I can't even remember. It's been a while, but this has been an incredible series. We've seen a huge amount of engagement coming in, not only from the OpenExO community, the 8,300 members of that community and its certified coaches and consultants, but also more external, right? So it's a way for us to connect to more of the external world that's going on with crypto. And it is really exciting what's going on with crypto these days. And I'm really excited to have Michael Jonsson joining us. The thing that I think is, how can I put this? It's all about the NFTs, right? The non-fungible tokens. And NFTs have taken the entire world by storm, especially the art world by storm. And I think that we should have an incredibly engaging conversation between myself and Salim Ismail will be with us today, as well as we've said, Michael Jonsson. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Salim next. Salim Ismail is the co-founding executive director of Singularity University. He is the chairman of OpenExO. He is my co-founder here at OpenExO. And he was the author of the book Exponential Organizations, a book that came out in 2014, has become an international business bestseller, and it really has changed the world about how people build companies, turn them into EXOs, and build EXOs from scratch. The big thing is that the model itself that's inside the book has actually, if once you learn that model, you can't really look at building a business any other way. And so, Salim and his team of co-authors did that back in 2014. And one of the more exciting, and I think we'll ask Salim about this in a moment when he comes on, is we will, and there he is. So hi, Salim, welcome.
Hey there, can you guys hear me okay?
I do hear you good now. Salim, I think there's a number of exciting things going on that you can sort of open in with some commentary before we dive into all the crypto stuff. But the world of finance is being impacted by crypto. The world of art is being impacted by crypto. You wrote the book EXO in 2014-15, and that has changed the way people look at, build, and think about running their businesses. And all of this is now coming together. So that's the way I think of it, and sort of part of where your positioning is in it. Maybe you want to share a couple of words to say hi to everybody about what you've been thinking about doing in the NFT space or in the blockchain space, and we'll start to lead into getting Michael's introduction going.
Well, I think I would skip quickly to Michael because my eyebrows are still on the ceiling with all this NFT stuff. Michael has been kind of guiding me very patiently through this stuff. And I think we should just get into it with him because it's clear this is a massive paradigm. It looks like a bit like a fad right now, but the underlying architecture is definitely here to stay. And there's now a massive number of projects that are going forward. So I'd say we just get into it.
Well, I think we will. I will ask you a couple of things first, though, around how did it come to be that OpenExO cares about cryptocurrency, for example. I mean, a lot of people watching might not have any idea that we have an engagement in that. So we've been building our own cryptocurrency for a while, and now we're looking at all the ways that current trends are impacting that. I know there's open questions about that from what's come in that we might touch on during the Q&A, but a couple of words about that, then I'll intro Michael and we'll bring him on.
Sure. So, we've been tracking Bitcoin blockchain since 2009. I brought Brock Pierce, the chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation, to Singularity University We did a bunch of talks there. Got to know Brian Bellendorf of Hyperledger, Austin Hill from Blockstream. Met Vitalik and his dad in the Ethereum world, the Ethereum Foundation. And in 2016, you and I started chatting. We had an interesting problem because as the community was growing into dozens of countries, we had no way of paying all these people in dozens of countries. And there's no mechanism around managing that. So we decided to launch a crypto token, mostly as a means of payment initially, but with additional utility that we wanted to continue to add to it. And we've been running that for three and a half years. And in the last kind of couple of years, the NFT space has really exploded, specifically in the last 3-4 months. And the architecture that these bring about become really, really fascinating for where we're trying to go. And so Michael is here to kind of try and give us some sense of what he's seeing and why this is such an important space.
Awesome. So thanks for that, Salim. So what I'm going to do is I've got a detailed introduction here from Michael. So I'm going to read this out, and then we're going to get Michael. So backstage, you guys get ready to hook Michael and pull him on the stage. So Michael Jonsson. Michael Jonsson was the first designer, funny enough, of the book Exponential Organization. So when you look at that book and the cover, Michael was the guy behind that. And what he did was he took those EXO attributes to heart and that exponential mindset and growth of his own, and he applied it to his own business. That's turned out reasonably well for him. He dabbles in crypto investing. He has a great track record that reflects his experience and ability to identify trends early. NFTs have been a recent focus for Michael in his portfolio. More recent ventures, Michael's taken on a mentorship role for Redwood's Mastermind, which is an exclusive crypto education community. He's been working on a crypto project called Tokenly, which we can speak to Michael a little bit about when he's here. And this develops tools and for blockchains and has recently branched out into neural networks for artists. His career is as a marketing professional, a penchant for anticipating technology trends and passion around blockchain. He's been doing this since 2013. He created some of the first video projects for industry name makers like Namecoin, IOCoin, and Storage.io. That's a really cool project, by the way. He's held advisory roles on several projects, contributed to the development of communication strategies, private investment strategies, and with a deep understanding of both the true value of the blockchain space and what drives market movements. He just has an exceptional portfolio track record and in blockchain affiliated projects. So let's bring Michael on and open up the conversation. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for that.
Wow, I was like, oh, I'm tired now. But I think more importantly is to hear it from you. So we'll also bring back Salim just in a moment. Basically we're going to have a panel style discussion, Michael, and just to open it up, one of the things we do on these town hall panels is we're all the facilitator. So maybe you have something that you're interested in too that you want to ask us. Totally fair game. So don't. It's a fun way to do it. It makes it a little bit more exciting. Cool. But I think coming from you, people would love to know what's got your attention right now, what in the world of crypto and NFTs, which is the title for this one. Tell us what's on your mind.
Wow, such a big question.
I know.
Honestly, what is on my? Just look at my background. You can see what's on my mind. We got these like fancy lizards back here. They're called kaiju kings. And what they actually do is they're a Web3 DAO, and they're using all the money that they raised from their sale to put it right back into forming other DAOs and basically like creating like a mentorship program where creators can help other creators and engineers can help other engineers. And eventually you end up with like this pool of talent that ends up taking on really big projects for major brand names. So I actually have an example of one called the Last Slice Collective. And they're actually like a metaverse group. It's 150 people only. And you only get into this group if you have a skill set to bring to it. And if you, so they've worked with, I wish I had the list on me, but they worked with a whole bunch of different brand names over the last couple of years, helping them get their metaverse presence started. And that's an example of what these DAOs can turn into. So the ones that I'm looking at are a pretty brand new one. They just started talking about their legal structure. They just started introducing the structure of how they're going to introduce their first mentors and how the community is going to vote on that. And they got a big war chest to play with. I think they just bought, I don't know, 40 or 50 parcels of land in the sandbox. And that's always a sign of good things to come. And I know most of you don't know why yet. So,
well, I would argue there could be people watching that don't know what a bunch of those things are. Yeah. So let's break that down a little bit. Web3 DAO. So those are two different words, and you smash them together. So let's hit on this real quick. So I know what I think Web3 is. What do you think Web3 is? And what do you think a DAO is? And then let's say what it means when you smash them together.
Yeah. So Web3 is just such a big word, but it's basically like the next evolution of the internet. So, or a big idea rather, not a big word. It's a small word. Web3.
Sometimes big things come in small packages. Sometimes it's okay.
Right. But in short, it brings the way I'll say it is it brings more intelligent, connected, and open websites to the internet, so they can work with each other, and that's what brings on all this. This DeFi that you're hearing about, which is allowing people to experiment and create all these fun new projects. And a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. So just a company that basically is just not run by anybody. Delegates get voted in, and they can get voted out if they're not doing their job. And everyone works together to, like-minded individuals work together to achieve a goal. And that could shift. So a DAO might be able to pivot faster than a centralized company, for example, in a volatile environment, which, the crypto space is, the tech space is.
Yeah, I think, governance in DAOs, it always comes up and it's a big issue. And when you talk about agility, that's often how fast you make decisions and execute and act on them. DAOs have the opportunity, I would argue, to be more agile, but they can also get weighed down by that. It's super interesting to see what's going on with Kaiju right now. So they're going to be taking on something. Do they think they're competing with anybody, or are they creating a whole new category?
I mean, yeah, there's tons of people trying to do the same thing. They're not the only people thinking about Web3, but they're definitely they've made the largest splash recently. I can't think of any projects that compete with them in the NFT space. There's definitely competition outside of the NFT space, where there's all sorts of foundations that are fostering Web3 in all sorts of interesting ways. So I'd agree with that.
Awesome. The thing is that I see lizards. What's the point of the lizards?
I think memes make people do things. It's the reason some people get up in the morning, I guess. Yes, and honestly, memes really it's something that helps us understand an emotion, understand an idea in a really quick way, and it lends itself virality. So these things are just sort of a fun way to enter into a community, even though it's doing something very serious in the back end. Even the Last Slice Collective, such a silly name. You're thinking about pizza. It's like a pizza logo, but these guys are like hustlers and they work. So that's why lizards. It's just it's fun. It's a fun thing to do. You're never too old for a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I was on a call. I was actually on a call with you where another member of the call said, don't conflate the art with the actual underlying, I guess we could say, utility or the function of the community. And he even insinuated that you don't need the art at all. So do you think you can create memes if you don't use art, like lizards or gorillas or things like that? Or
I've gotten ones that just have math on them, like a 2 + 2 = 4, and it's not arguably math is art, but it's not art as we traditionally think about it. I've had one where it's just sort of like a bunch of lines of code describing what the art might look like in the future. And that's getting people excited because now you have this mystery box factor, and people are wondering what's it going to look like, what's it going to be. But now they're right at the moment, and for months they're just trading these blocks of code effectively, and it's all speculation. So there's art in the code in a lot of ways. It's not about the art on the surface.
Awesome. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit, Michael. I want to bring Salim back on, and we're going to talk about some of the things. We're going to try to bridge a little bit the world of OpenExO, a little bit the world of EXOs and NFTs and Bitcoin. maybe talk. I mean, Bitcoin today, last time I checked, it was over 68,000. I mean, this certainly has some attention being paid to it. So let's see if we can tease out a little bit what some of these things are all about. So let's start with something Salim said earlier. He said, it looks like a fad, right? I happen to not think it's fad. I think it's fundamental state change. And now, are things fad like within it? Perhaps. But, I don't think the whole move is a fad. Like I didn't think the internet was a fad. What do you think about that? And Salim, then you as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a fad, but it's one that's not going away, right? Like memes, like social media, they will evolve, and our relationship with them will as well. But as more of our lives become digital, things that build out our digital identities, enable us to express ourselves, are only going to become more valuable, not less valuable. Yeah, Salim?
No, first of all, Michael, great to see you again. Michael has been shepherding me through this world for the last, I want to take you guys through a quick 2-3 minute journey as to what I've been going through with Michael over the last few weeks. Can I share my screen?
I think so.
I'm going to try and share my screen. Let's see if this works.
Don't give away any sensitive crypto anythings.
No, that's fine. You can,
yeah.
You can see, right. Can you see my screen there?
It's
there
slow. Yeah, there it is. There
okay.
we go.
So I asked Michael, how does one get into this NFT world? And he pointed me to this website, OpenExO, which is a marketplace for NFTs, and pointed me to this project called CyberKongs. These are what are called Genesis Kongs, and each of these is 87 to 95 Ethereum to buy. There's, as you can see up here, there's 32K worth of Ethereum traded today on these things. And I'm sitting there going, that's like $500,000 almost for a digital picture of an ape. And I asked him to explain that. And he said, these are like the status symbols of this new world. If you have an amazing painting, maybe a few dozen people will see it. But if you have one of these, millions of people could see it. And it's an important status symbol. More importantly, it turns out these CyberKongs yield bananas. And how many bananas do they yield, Michael?
Oh, you get 10 bananas a day.
So you get 10 bananas, they're kind of like a utility.
CyberKong. Yeah.
And they're trading at like $100 each?
They're trading at like $50 each, but they were trading at $120 each at one point.
So this one of these apes is yielding like $150,000 to $200,000 worth of bananas a year.
But as a CyberKong, we say one banana equals one banana.
Well,
right.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. So I said, okay, my wife will divorce me if I spend this much on an ape. Can I get into something slightly simpler? And he pointed me to this project, which were a set of digital bears, which trade at Ethereum and a half each. And these apparently will also start yielding some sort of honey as a utility. And then he showed me this one, which was the one he referenced earlier called Neo Tokyo, where essentially the character is essentially a set of code which has a bunch of characteristics like Cyber Street Trader, Mutant, etc. It's like a playing card almost, where you get this capability, and you work this out. And apparently, he convinced me to buy one that had a certain yield, which yields X amount of bytes. Was it, Michael?
Yeah, bytes.
And so this character yielded me 500 bytes. And these bytes are trading at $95 each. So I'm sitting there going, wait, the character that I bought for 10 ETH or something suddenly yielded $50,000 worth of yield. This is kind of really surreal and pretty out there. So there's a very bizarre kind of dynamic, but it's very powerful, especially as we consider the transformation we're trying to achieve with our own token. There's something incredibly powerful going on here that really can't be ignored. And so I think, Kent, you said it well. There are aspects of this that will look like a fad, etc. There's an important article written in Rolling Stone magazine describing what's called the Bored Ape Club. And if you have one of these, you can actually get into real world events and physical environments, and it's an access pass to something very unique. And so the Bored Apes Club is one of these that becomes very powerful, and people are trading those for hundreds of Ethereum each. And so this seems to be a movement. And Michael, you were telling me that I think Coinbase is opening up a whole bunch of NFT wallets. What was the statistic?
2.5 million people have signed up to be part of the Coinbase NFT marketplace that is coming to a website near you.
Right. And so there's a massive flood coming to this world, and the projects are evolving unbelievably fast. Michael, where do you think this goes over the short to medium term? Do you think there'll just be hundreds of projects and thousands of projects, or will we see a limited number that do well?
Yeah, just for more context there, I think about 400,000 wallets exist today on OpenSea. So the 2.5 million new signups is pretty hefty. Yeah, I see there being a massive explosion. You know, kids are going to be making NFTs. You're just going to see so many, but it's not going to be about the money. It's going to just be about the utility. It's going to be a popularity contest more than anything in that context. But you know, there will be financial NFTs, there will be community NFTs, and there will be NFTs just for fun.
Okay, so a couple of quick.
I just wanted to touch on. Don't go buying a CyberKong now, because they're not all yielding bananas, you guys. Only the Genesis collection is.
Thank you, Michael.
Don't get fooled.
I should say, nothing you're hearing today is investment advice. You know, we are not giving you investment advice. We're telling you about a trend. We're telling you about a technology. What you do with your money is your problem. But the reality is that you have to pay attention to what's changing here societally. So why don't I shift us into a slightly different track? So here's the question, and we can answer this a bunch of different ways, I think. But what are the business uses for NFTs outside of games and art? Salim, you've touched on some. Michael, you've probably heard of tons of projects. For example, I think it was A16Z recently invested in Bright Moments DAO. Bright Moments DAO, that ticket, right? That NFT in that case, I believe it is, gets you access to kind of an exclusive club, and then those things can trade as well. I'm not so sure I like the idea that if somebody buys an exclusive membership, they can sell it to the next person, and then that person shows up at the next meeting. That's a little bit weird. But anyways, back to the question, you know, what are the business uses for NFTs outside games and art? What do we think?
Well, yeah, I'm really glad Salim touched upon all those other projects. So like CyberKongs is like you join this community and you're getting alpha on different projects. Alpha just means you're getting like the earliest tips and you're getting help on how to buy it. And even more, you might get other tips surrounding the space and just help with whatever you got going on just by asking a question. So you have a community of people you can kind of trust. And then like the bears is like kind of next level. It's not just about alpha with projects, but it was created by like a 20-year game developer vet, and he has all sorts of utility plan and gamification plan, and that's more than just sort of like these guys getting together and having fun and giving each other tips in the market, right? And then the Kaiju Kings, which we talked about earlier, is like a little bit more serious. You got this, that is more of like the business use case. You know, you have this Web3 foundation. These guys are getting a legal structure. They're getting a whole mentorship program. This is serious stuff. It's much more than a yacht club, as you were referencing before, or a golf club. And then again, like I mentioned the Last Slice Collective before, and these guys are just like, you know, all of them have a skill set and they're all building and they're all trying to achieve a similar goal. So these people who are joining are not just joining to work, they're joining to learn from each other, to level each other up, to be connected with some of the best people in the industry. It's something that they would never be able to achieve without it. Now you feel part of a community in a very real way that levels you up. And that's, in my opinion, you know, a business use case, because these guys are working with businesses. So, you know, moving on from that, like, you know, I don't know, I don't think we mentioned like crowdfunding, but that's one of the major things that people are doing. It's kind of, the Bears is almost like a crowdfunding collective. He said, I'm a game dev. I have some games planned. These are my bears, and people are now giving him the money to go and build that thing. So people are going to maybe wait 1 or 2 years before this really comes to fruition, but it might be this thing where he puts it out in pieces like mini games and stuff, and keeps people interested throughout until the real vision comes to fruition. And it doesn't have to be written on a roadmap. Some of the best projects don't have a roadmap. Roadmaps pigeonhole you. When you leave it a little bit open to exploration and you let the community help you, you can build something much more interesting. So like business use cases, imagine just like government stuff, like being in a hospital. Imagine like pulling out your phone, pointing it at someone, and they have like an NFT badge, and you could see it above their head floating, and that you see their credentials, who they are. Like, so maybe, you know, because people, you know, I think that's an issue where people will just go into hospitals and walk around, put on the right coat, and then you don't know who's in there. And this is a way to verify people. So just think like identification, certification, documentation. This is business use case. This is. I'll stop. But Salim, what do you think?
Okay. Before I jump over to Salim, I just want to. I don't want to be a buzzkill, so I'm not going to dig into this. But regulatory aspects of what happens when you sell something and promise something for later, there are some regulatory aspects of that you have to consider sometimes, depending on where your jurisdiction is, where you live. I don't want to be a buzzkill and get into the whole regulatory aspects of that, but I do think it bears a little bit of mention, because we've talked about a whole array of projects here today. Some of them are clearly fine. Some of them, maybe they're in gray areas. And the message is, we don't know yet. The SEC doesn't know. Nobody knows how this is going to net out. So I think it's very interesting. But Salim, this particular question on. Oh, go ahead, Michael. You wanted.
I was going to say it may not be a fad, but it's certainly a big experiment.
It's definitely a big experiment. One of the things we extol in the EXO model as one of the 10 attributes, Michael, is experimentation. And basically, if you're not experimenting, you've died already. You're a zombie. You're just roaming the earth in a dead state. But Salim, you want to come back and talk a little bit about sort of we'll call them business use cases for NFTs outside games and art. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, my background is database design, which may sound really weird to you. So structured tables and hierarchical structures is something that's always I understand kind of deeply. I'm going to share my screen again and just show you that
explains your penchant for bullet points. Got it.
Exactly. So this is the Neo Tokyo collection, which, as I said, has these collection of cards which has these characteristics on them. And if you look down the left here, you can see all these different characteristics of these NFTs, like which class is it, a driver, a bartender, a builder, a grunt, a chat support, what kind of credit yield are you looking at? So I've ticked off mid. So these yield a middle amount of those bytes that I mentioned. The eye color, or the status of this particular, etc. So there's a set of characteristics you can attribute to these NFTs that becomes really interesting in terms of you can break it down and you can have collections and layers on top of it, right? Now, if you think about our community, we have ambassadors, we have consultants, we have people that have done the EXO Basics Foundation course, etc. Each of them have they have a set of badges that they earn. So this maps onto the NFT kind of overall architecture very, very well for a community. And so there's something very powerful here as we map onto the real world to give real world status and map them onto this NFT architecture. The non-fungible nature, what's happened in my broader opinion, is after this conversation with Peter last week and with Eric Poulier, there's this thing about exponential technologies, and we always wonder when is an exponential technology going to actually take off, okay? Because it goes for an arbitrarily long flat period of curve before it really takes off, and we've identified that the knee of the curve is typically around usability. When Steve Jobs made the iPhone usable and boom, it took off, right? Bitcoin blockchain has not been that usable until this NFT wave. And the NFT wave, with the ease of use of the wallets, with the ease of use of acquiring them, etc. Like, I'm a dolt in this world. And with the help of Michael, I was able to navigate it. And I can now kind of navigate this world. The NFTs now make blockchains usable in a really powerful new way. And therefore, the adoption should take off, and it goes exponential from here. That plus the structure, plus the other characteristics, to be traceable, to be unique, as Angelo says, this becomes an incredibly powerful register for all sorts of things that are interesting in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Look, we've got Michael. I see you might have some rebuttal to that, so please jump in. Just as a little clue, we're starting to get live questions coming in from the audience, and I'm going to start to weave those in here in a moment. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, not just NFTs, definitely NFTs in a new exciting way, but back in the last bull run of 2016, 2017, there was really like nothing to do. It's like go trade on an exchange. Now it's like, DeFi is a huge pillar of this, and NFTs just add to that, and the combination of the two are just pretty incredible. So now, and add in stable coins, you just have so much to do this time around. The space is completely different than it was just a few years ago.
You just reminded me of, Michael, and maybe it'll show the age a little bit, but I remember it was probably 1995, 93. I was Mosaic came out somewhere around then, but if you were going to get on the internet, about the most exciting thing you could do was Gopher. Right? Anybody remember Gopher? Right? Like I was, you're cruising around these they're just file servers, and you're looking at people's files, and there was some chat, which was like you could actually type faster sometimes than the characters would show up on the screen, that kind of thing. So we were in that state probably in that last bull run, right? We were out there doing that.
I think I was in grade 6 or 7. And I think I was using ICQ, not Gopher.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're in, and I said something similar in a conversation with Salim recently. I said, a lot of even what we're seeing right now could be Napsters, right? The really big thing hasn't happened yet. The groundwork is still being laid with some of these new interfaces and ideas. So I don't know what you guys think about that, about where we are in the continuum of evolution is what I'm asking.
You want to go ahead, Salim?
The use cases of where this applies start to totally explode, right? Vitalik just wrote a great post about the use of tokens in cities, and he covers some of the major projects that are happening. But imagine you have the local neighborhoods all having a piece of their land represented as NFTs, and those give them certain voting rights and give a certain yield. You have a kind of a reverse taxation capability that's really powerful to navigating this. For me, I'll repeat what I said last week in the discussion with Peter and Eric. For me, the power of all this whole world is not the fact that you can digitize it. It's the fact that you can program the outcomes. And then the programmatic nature of this makes sure you can then scale an environment in a really, really powerful way. And we've never been able to do that before. So if you take a land title and put that on a blockchain, great, that's the digital land title. But if that land title gives you yield, like carbon credits and other things, depending on what you have on that land, things get really interesting when you intersect this architecture of unique capability plus that. Vinay Gupta, who's the head of the community when Ethereum launched, is building the legal framework to connect from the NFT world to the real world, and a legally enforceable structure. Because right now an NFT is kind of a picture of a picture, and it could change, and there's some confusion around that. But if you can build a solid legal framework and a legal hierarchy, then you have something very powerful. A couple of the projects are taking collectibles and rare things and putting NFTs against those and having them be legally bound to the physical object. So as we get to that, we essentially now move to the metaverse. And Michael, you should really talk a little bit about what you're doing there, and maybe share your screen with what's happening with your project, your Pixel Mine project, which is mind-boggling.
I'll get that prepared, but I think the core of what you're talking about is like tokenomics. Tokenomics, a wise friend told me, is like a tool that is like the best tool for dictating human action, or for getting humans to act in a way that you want them to, because tokenomics, just like you lay it out and then people behave accordingly. So that's a very powerful tool that we've never had before. That's coming out of this. That's a big takeaway. But let me pull up.
While you're doing that, I want to mention something around that. So this is a funny story that just happened to me this week somehow. But tokenomics, the way you've just described them, sound an awful lot like game mechanics or gamification. And in fact, if you take a real big think, go broad, what all blockchains are. When you're given that token, I don't care if it's an NFT or a fungible token or whatever it is, when you're given that unit of account, I'll go with, you've been gamified right in that moment, right? But it's this explosion of use cases for that unit of account or value or means of exchange, as most monies are, that things fundamentally change. And that's what we're all experiencing. And It's crazy. I'll let you show us about this part of the metaverse. I think metaverse is trying to eat Web3, and there's a whole one-upmanship going on out there, but with Facebook stuff. But I actually toured your art gallery that you sent me the link to the other day in Decentraland. So is that what you got?
Yeah. So this is the Genesis block where everyone appears first when they come to Decentraland. So they've worked really hard on building it. This is a full-on DAO. They actually started centralized and they've fully transitioned into a DAO. Now I'm going to jump into the map and go right up to my space, which is at 14 or 15140. And we're going to jump right in. Boom, jump. And it's going to load for a second, but yeah, as you saw, I have my avatar. I can dress my avatar however I want. You can jump into your like backpack, and you can actually gain wearables through participating in other events that are happening in the metaverse. And so I think I could show you really quickly. Maybe I have something in my backpack. Boom! Here, let's put on this cool robe. Oh, I didn't press done. And also. One great tip, I always like to view things in night mode, just easier on the eyes. And typically when you're surfing the metaverse, it's at night after work.
Interesting.
But this is our space. We got some music coming from the cat. I don't know if you can hear it. We got some beautiful art. I'll start walking instead of running so you can actually see it. But these are deep learning AI generated art pieces. So like, for example, here I typed in like Elon Musk Picasso, and the computer just created this out of thin air. I didn't feed it an image or anything. This was like an Einstein Picasso. I just wrote Pink Floyd, brick in the wall, and it gave me this. So these are some cool things that we've been, some tools that we're rolling out for artists so that they might be able to create derivatives of their existing art. So you can actually feed it an image plus a text prompt, and that's what these two are actually, and achieve a result. And that opens up all sorts of capabilities for existing artists and for people who really don't have too much skill with traditional art tools who want to dabble. So it's in one way, some people might see it as like cheating, but in another way, it's an extension of Photoshop. Now everyone has access to creating art.
Well, we're all familiar with the sort of prototypical image of an artist holding the board with the paints on it and the brush, with their thumb. You're just using a different palette, Michael.
Yeah, precisely.
It's really lovely.
When I type in that text prompt, I have to wait like a few minutes for it to spit out my image. It's doing a lot of work in the back end. And when it finally, like, I feel during that time, I feel attached to it. Sometimes it bugs out and it doesn't give it to me. And I'm like, man, that's like a lost image. You can type in the same prompt 10 times and you'll get 10 different results. So like, it's like this moment in time that you're capturing. I'm still thinking it through, but that's super
awesome.
Interesting. Yeah.
So a couple of, so this is amazing. Just to tie this back to the NFT world, by the way, you see the art here in Decentraland, you're displaying it in a virtual gallery. Behind that piece of art, I don't know if you've minted an NFT for these pieces of art, but you could certainly. And then that would convey the ownership of the art, no matter where it's displayed. Therefore, you're the owner, Michael, you're the curator in this case in your space in Decentraland, this virtual gallery. And I think sometimes people are having trouble tying together the difference between the art, which in this case is a digital file from a generative adversarial network, and the actuality of owning it as an NFT. And then the fact that ownership becomes tradable, whereas the art is effectively now immutable. Now, I've been playing around, Michael, with storing digital stuff on IPFS to issue a CID as a form of hashed barcode to deal with what Salim talked about earlier, which is when somebody can change a pixel, it's not the same piece of art anymore, right? So there are also tools evolving to handle the veracity of the digital work that's then got an NFT minted towards it, like a certificate of ownership. Anyways, I'm just trying to tie some pieces together for folks of some of the things we've talked about here.
And yeah, the NFT in a lot of ways acts as a certification. So like this is a statue that exists in real life. It's a Richard McDonald. And when you buy one, they give you this piece of paper that says it's authenticated. But that piece of paper is just something that you can print. It's worthless effectively. So if you instead it was attached to an NFT, now you're potentially part of this community. If they just open up a channel, you have a direct connection with that brand. They can drop other stuff on you, and you have your certification that says, in fact, I do own this stuff, and it would travel along as you sold it. This is a real in real life statue, not just a digital one. It was
that's too funny. I mean, try to get them to ship you your statue. Good luck. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Especially if it's this big, right? But one thing I want to show you is this little machine here. It's pretty cool. It has a little smiley face in it. That's just a logo I put, but it's a POAP machine. It's a proof of attendance protocol. So it's a neat little protocol that these guys created where I haven't mentioned it before, but you come and you collect it. And when you do, it goes into your wallet, and it's proof that you were at a certain place at a certain time. And these are being used for in real life events and metaverse events as well. And once they have it, they can be airdropped other things or provided tickets to future events or whatever it is. It's a proof of early user.
That's awesome. Yeah, POAP. It's POAP. P period O period A period P period. Just for everybody out there, pretty new. A lot of people don't have any idea what those are yet. So that was amazing that you got to show us that right there. I want to shift us again. I want to start to address some of the audience questions, and so we'll probably kind of go across a number of subjects here as we go because they're not all along the same lines. The first question that we have that I want to touch on is how I'm just going to read the question verbatim. How do NFTs enable to create longer term client relationships for brands? What are our possibilities? Michael, Salim.
So many long. So as you can see, as you might have seen, there are tons of brands jumping into the NFT space. And here is the question up there on the screen. How do NFTs enable to create longer term client relationships for brands? So it's actually what I just described. Things like this POAP machine. As soon as you have an NFT, you have a direct connection to the person who created it. And they don't need to know it's kind of like an email. In the early days, you get email marketing, or you got no email marketing. You just were happy to open an email. Now we get like crazy email marketing. When you own an NFT, anyone who knows you own it, they can give you something. They can give you an invitation to something. They can give you another NFT. It's not even necessarily the brand itself. It could be like, hey, I'm some guy and I want to drop something on all the people that own a Disney NFT. I can do that. So it creates a direct relationship, and it also creates a lot of cross relationships and opportunities between brands.
Yeah. Oh man, you just gave, so why isn't my Disney Plus membership an NFT? And they should be dropping me like a discount on the ticket price for the stream, right? That would be an example. That's not a real example. I just made that up, but why doesn't that exist? It
Fantastic idea. I love that. Yeah. And then they can really engage with their client.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You can lend out now your NFT to a family member in on a blockchain. So it's a provable thing. Hey, I want to give it to Aunt Sally for 2 weeks while on vacation. And you just send that to her wallet and it automatically comes back to you, right?
Okay, that's.
I have a kind of a slightly disruptive question here. If when you look at somebody's LinkedIn profiles, you can see their interests, right? Some people are interested in Bill Gates, and other people are interested in this, and people follow various other people, et cetera, et cetera. Could you create a parallel world and basically say everybody that has an interest in Bill Gates gets this NFT? And essentially create a total different layer of the interest and essentially pull it away and hack the whole thing and say, now we can do interesting things with everybody that's interested in Bill Gates, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, totally. I love that.
Totally idea. Could do that. Yes. Michael, see.
I was thinking of something really interesting just yesterday where like you have all these NFTs and that you were showing off the attributes that they have, all the properties. And I was thinking like there's a lot of like overlapping properties across things. So what if you made like a 3D glasses club, and now all the NFTs that have 3D glasses, it doesn't matter if you're a kaiju, a Kong, a Bits, or whatever you are. Now you got the 3D glasses NFT access. And that's based on the metadata of that single property. Forget the actual NFT itself. And I thought that could be really interesting, and it's already built in, right? Hey, we're having a 3D glasses party. Anyone with 3D glasses from any of these top 10 projects come hang out.
So there's an important point. I've just remembered there was a Twitter thread. If we can find it, we'll post it. of some. I think, Michael, it came from one of the Discord channels we were in, where somebody said, as we go forward in this world, your digital self over time becomes increasingly more important than your physical self.
Yeah.
Right. And as we move to that model, like clearly our digital selves here on Zoom are more important than the flesh and bone thing sitting over here. But as we move to the metaverse, that becomes more and more obvious. The ownership of which NFTs you have, your description and characteristics of who you are, etc., is now you have a persona out there that's operating in a particular way. As we move through this world, there are some obvious use cases like gaming and art and characteristics, community building, etc. Where do you think the next 3 years will be the richest use case for NFTs?
Man, you're saying how you have this identity in real life and this identity online, but like what makes the online identity more important is you could have 10 of them. Now you have an avatar in 10 different metaverses and they look different depending on who your friends are or whatever. Now you're like, what's more important to you, 10 identities or one? Right?
Michael, they can also
I can't get
survive
one, so
they can also survive you after your physical body dies, which is a very interesting concept.
Well, using the same tools I was talking about, what's behind it is GPT-5, the AI generative art tools. You could actually train an AI to learn your stories. And I was with someone in a metaverse. It's a free one Facebook owns called, or Microsoft owns called AltSpace. So you put on your Oculus. So yeah, It is Facebook. And I think, anyways, yeah. And then you can go and make whatever events you want. And I just lost my train of thought. Sorry, guys.
That's okay. Let's shift gears again. We've got another question in coming from the audience. This one, as you can see there. Hi, I'm new to this. Is this conversation about the benefits for digital speculation? The question of what is an NFT, why an NFT is a credible unit of value in exchange is not evident. There's really 3 questions here. Let's go backwards. Why is an NFT a potentially credible unit of exchange?
I guess we can go back to the bananas. It has to do with utility. So once an ecosystem's built, once the token exists in it, now that ecosystem has to create different use cases for it. So maybe I spend my banana on naming my Cyber Kong, or I have to spend it on creating a new baby where I need 2 Genesis Kongs and a certain amount of bananas to create a baby, which is part of their ecosystem. And then they have the banana machine, which lets you buy certain things. So that's like the unit of exchange. That's why I said 1 banana equals 1 banana, because it's not really valued at anything. It's just what the community values it based on its utility within the ecosystem, and that's it.
Okay. Well, in that example, the banana is actually fungible. The NFT that's generating them is not, right? Because this is fungible, right? This is a dollar bill. It is actually unique. It has a unique serial number on it, but it is effectively fungible with all other dollar bills. So you have to sort of think of it that way. So it's credible because people will accept it and give you one thing for another. It's effectively comes down to trust in a way. You trust if I give you this dollar for something, or if you give me an ETH part of Ethereum for something, we're okay because we've agreed that that's a viable means of exchange.
Right. Yeah. No, I'd agree more with you. I went a little out of left field there with the banana.
No worries. No, I love that. I mean, it's bananas, and we have to talk about bananas as credible means of exchange these days. Yeah.
Just on that point, I remember in our big webinar around why fiat currencies will fail and why Bitcoin can't not succeed, 2-hour extravaganza we had earlier this year, there was a really important point, which was once people start valuing their house in BTC instead of dollars, right? It's kind of game over. And what's interesting around this is we're now starting to see, I don't say that character is worth X amount of dollars. I'm saying that character is worth X ETH. And we're the base unit of account is Ethereum in this entire Ethereum world, in this NFT world for now. So we're kind of stepping very quickly through the new world. And I see why you say that. Banana is a banana. It's what you can do with that counts.
Bingo. Yeah. So let's keep picking up.
Eat it, but that's fine.
Well, that banana might be worth $100, so it's better be a really good banana. Or $50. You think you said lately. So what is in it? Oh, sorry. Please go ahead, Michael, and then I'll grab this next part of the question.
NFT stuff from before. So I was talking about AltSpace. I met this dude, and he took us through a gallery and he showed us pictures of his life. It was like museum size gallery. He took me through it. I spent 2 hours with him. He shared me all these wonderful stories, beautiful art. And I was like, man, what if an AI captured this and then like lived beyond you? And that's what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
It just hit me like this would be so amazing. And just recently I found these NFTs. I think Mark Cuban is actually backing it. It's called, can't remember the name, but personality NFTs you can look up. They're attaching themselves to NFTs. It's like these bots attach themselves to an NFT, and then the NFT can talk and learn. And effectively it's using the GPT-5 technology to train these AIs. When you speak to it, it learns. And then if you get enough people speak into these AIs, you can all put them all into a room, the AIs together, and they can speak to each other and train each other. And who knows what happens out of that kind of experiment. That's something that excites me.
I want to clarify something for the audience. The currently released version of GPT-3 is GPT-3 from OpenAI, which has been licensed to Microsoft and deployed in numerous products to date. You're referencing GPT-5. That would be 2 generations down the line of the GPT family. Is this the same thing, or are you talking about a different thing altogether? I just want to be clear.
Maybe I'm misquoting. Maybe people that I know are playing with things that other people aren't. I'm not
okay.
sure.
I would love to know, because I read about GPT-4 and 5. There, it's all predicted, right, when it's going to happen. But you're talking about multi-trillion-dollar
offline for sure.
Yeah, no worries. We're talking about 1.5 trillion parameter trained models that don't technically exist yet. So, conversation for another day. The next part of this question is, and it's a throwback question. And sometimes when we do these panels, we're immersed. We talk about these things like everybody knows what we're talking about, and that's not always the case. So let's hit a basic question.
Right.
What is an NFT, non-fungible token? Who wants to try it? Michael, you want to try it? We'll tag team it. I've got opinions too.
It just means so many things. It's everything
Yeah.
we've been talking about. But a non-fungible token is just think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you don't care if you accept one Bitcoin or some other Bitcoin. It looks the same to you. It's worth the same to you. A non-fungible token, my first NFT was like these horses, and they all look the same, but they're different colors. But not only are they just different colors, but they have different statistics. And
Right.
that means they're different speeds, and maybe they get tired at different rates. Now my money, it isn't the same. My units of account aren't the same, and that's where non-fungible token comes from. They're all horses, but they're all unique horses with unique names, unique colors, and unique statistics.
Yes.
And that is my shot at it.
Something people don't realize about that example you gave is then you can actually breed them. They have genetics, and then you can output new horses. And this just blows people's mind when they start to realize this. Like, digital breeding is a thing, right? And Axie and Infinium, right? People are taking these outcomes and making these NFTs usable in multiple games.
Yeah.
And so now your NFT, you're a little horse, you can ride it in game A, and then you can go ride the horse in game B. However, it may actually have different talents in different games. It's crazy what's going on there. It's outstanding. So ultimately, the most basic answer to this question is an NFT is an actual standard by which you code the description of some digital unit. So in this case, it's a token that lives on a blockchain. So it's an ERC 721 standard, and that standard tells us how to do something in a way that is useful and that we all agree on. It's a protocol standard. Okay.
I saw a t-shirt company the other day saying we make non-fungible t-shirts, and that just means that they make custom one-off t-shirts for everyone that buys one to tailor to their size. And like, that's just it's a way to understand that kind of
that
thing.
might be disruptive to Cafe Press, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Well, we beat that question up. Thank you to, it looks like another Michael who brought that question in. Now, Angelo, well, hang on. Looks like I don't get to pick the next question. What is this? Okay, exploring working with co-op startups with real products and virtual services in several countries. Should they use traditional currency in decision-making? What value from NFT digital playground? Okay, so should they just go ahead and use dollars or euros, or should they consider making effectively an NFT-based digital currency is what I'm kind of picking up here.
I'll let you take this one, Salim.
Who, me?
Yeah, go for it. Do you have an opinion on this one? If not, we'll probably
I think you could do both. I think there's an obvious. I think the fun will come when you can map them and have the fungibility, like the proof of attendance then gets you something in the real world. That's where I think things will get really interesting, and I think we can get there now very, very fast, because a MetaMask wallet now gives you can hold all these tokens, and I can easily show I have this thing, and therefore I can get into a real world event. I can collect real world things. Eric was describing last week how they created an Allstate, or is it State Farm, one of the two, insurance thing where they dropped virtual footballs all around the US and people were picking them up and then collecting them. So there's this gamification will go into real life. It's like Pokemon Go for real, where you can get into real life and do something real. That bridging between the two, I think, will become more and more blurred as we move into this world. At some point, we'll get into, virtual augmented reality kind of stuff around this, which will take it to the next level. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think there's a very rich carpet to unroll on just exploring access, NFTs for access and rewards and the gamification of all of that. And that can be tracked really easily now with all of the stuff that's happening.
Okay, awesome. So the next one we're going to pop up is NFTs plus crypto. Could this lead us to other risks such as money laundering or funding illegal activities? This one comes up all the time, so it's really good to throw it out here. Guys, are people going to use this for illicit activities?
Yeah, the way I answer this is like, you could use a baseball bat to play baseball, or you could use a baseball bat to slug someone to death. Any tool could be used in nefarious ways, and people will try to do that no matter what cool thing you're doing. So that's just sort of the way of the world, and that goes for the internet and cell phones and any. How many scam calls do you get a day? Should we just get rid of cell phones? Anyways.
So I've strong views on this one. The weapon of choice for money laundering is still the US dollar bill, because it's untraceable. So carrying around stacks of US dollar bills is the safest way of doing it, and it hasn't stopped money laundering anywhere. In fact, if you were tracking these stories, Wells Fargo had special windows for their Mexico branches where people stack stacks of US dollars, and the windows were made just so that you could stack X amount in there. So the banks are part of this game also when you get into the money laundering side, because they make a ton of money off it. The negative side, take what's happening in El Salvador, where they adopted Bitcoin, and all of a sudden the president of the country has a stash of 6,000 Bitcoin that are kind of anonymous, and he can do whatever he wants with them. $6 billion, worth of Bitcoin.
That was,
which
I
is
I asked a neighboring country what they thought of El Salvador, and that was the story they told me back. They're like, yeah, this is what we think of that. And I'm like, whoa, okay.
So there's lots of negative side, but it turns out that because these are pseudo-anonymous, not really anonymous, it's a really bad idea to do bad stuff with crypto. You can be tracked pretty quickly through wallets for the most part. So it's really, over time, it'll become harder and harder. The way I like to look at this is that, when you had the California gold rush, the first people to show up were the miners to mine the gold. The second group of people to show up were the thieves to rob from the miners. Then you had Stagecoach Protection Services, Wells Fargo, etc., to protect the gold from everybody else. And we evolved that ecosystem, which you can always. The big challenges for any technology is how do you extract the promise without the peril? And with different regulatory structures, behavioral loops, etc., we can handle that. Over time, the power of this is so explosively huge that the negative use cases become negligible and irrelevant, as we've seen.
Salim, I'm reminded of a conversation from, and it must have been a long time ago, or 2013, 14, somewhere in there, that on balance, technologies, as Michael said, you can hit someone with the bat or you can play baseball with the bat. Same thing with just about a chair. It doesn't matter. But on balance, people tend to use things for better purposes. Do you remember that study or comment, or who said that?
This was eBay, where on eBay or Craigslist you can just as easily do a fraudulent transaction. I can pretend to sell you my MacBook, collect $1,000 and I'm gone, or do a constructive transaction. So researchers studied in an area where you can do good or bad, what's the actual ratio? Because here you have an even playing field where you can do either way. And they studied millions of transactions, and the ratio turns out to be something like 8,000 to 1. There are 8,000 positive transactions on eBay for every fraudulent transaction. And that gives you a really positive vibe for humanity where people can do those things. The bad guys can always do bad things. And remember that our amygdala focuses on the negative. And we are 10 times more likely to pay attention to bad news than good news, which is why we joke that Fox News does so well, right? If you watch Fox News, you're going to die this week because of a terrorist coming from Mexico. If you're lucky, you'll last till next week, but then you're going to die next week, but you're going to die. Peter calls CNN the crisis news network because every bank robbery tracked in real time, streamed to 20 devices in HD. You think the world's going to go to hell, you vote on that, and then you end up with Trump. And so, but the actual reality is we're delivering massive, massive abundance to the world. And I think cryptocurrencies, NFTs, look at that game, Axie Infinity, is it?
Yep, we just mentioned
thousands of Filipino families are pulling themselves out of poverty by playing that game. It's a staggering phenomenon.
It's
I just wanted to add to that one of the biggest, funny enough, one of the biggest utilities that I've seen out of all these communities on Discord is people trying to help each other avoid scams. So just take that for what it's worth.
That's super cool. See, that's great, right? Because at crowdsourced or the crowd, we're the best censor. Nobody will ever make an AI. Well, okay, that's weird to say. Probably nobody will ever make an AI that's a better censor than a bunch of humans, because we have the capability to sniff things out, and as long as we trust ourselves enough and then collaborate and corroborate these feelings, we can actually do something like what you're saying. That's a great idea. I hadn't heard that one.
I love how you stop yourself. You're like, do I want to be on the wrong side of history here?
Well, I'm predicting the AI won't replace us, and that might not be a great business to be in. So I'm going to take us on another question now. This one is again kind of a little bit of a step back, but this is asking you specifically, Michael. What kind of NFT platform are you using? I actually think it's a bit of a loaded question. There's a simple answer, and then there's what is an NFT platform? So over to you.
NFT platform, like where do I buy them? That would be what Salim was sharing earlier. OpenExO. That's just like literally a sea of NFTs. You learn how to navigate. You learn how to read through these different types of collectibles and NFT projects, and then you kind of go shopping. And that's like one platform I'm using. But each of these NFT communities are either in the process of building some sort of platform, or there is some sort of interface that you can engage with in some capacity. So there's even DeFi products built within NFT projects. That is another way I'm using these platforms.
So slightly deeper to sort of extrapolate what Angela was asking, over your shoulder, of course, I see the lizards, and this is on OpenSea. And OpenSea, if you haven't explored it, you should go look. Rarible is another such marketplace. These are marketplaces for NFTs. The NFTs actually live on blockchains like Ethereum or Polygon or others. Most blockchains now have an NFT ERC 721 compatible component. So when I think of the platform for the NFT, I'm a nerd, right? And I answer it, well,
of course,
Ethereum.
Of course, yeah. Ethereum, Solana, NFTs. Yeah, I totally missed the mark on that.
No, you're right. And the way that you said it is mostly how people think about it. All I'm saying is let's be careful and look at the rest of it as well. The platform for NFT is actually a blockchain, and there are many now. Marketplace
question though.
Go for it.
I use Ethereum, but it's pay to play. I would say if you're using Ethereum every single day, multiple transactions, you're looking at spending over $100,000 a year. It's pay to play on Ethereum. So anyone who's looking to dabble into NFTs, who doesn't really know what they're doing, the one little piece of advice is buy what you think looks nice. That you like, make sure you like it because you might get stuck with it.
Yeah, that's right.
and also hang out on platforms that don't charge expensive fees. So go to Polygon, go to Solana, go to FTM, get your feet wet. You can play and not worry about $200 transaction fees, getting stuck. And then you get into the NFT. You want to play their games. Everything's a transaction. Now you spent $1,000 trying to move your NFT to something you don't even understand. So
there's no real business in high frequency trading on Ethereum at the moment, right? But look, we call Ethereum an L1 blockchain, level 1, whereas you've got like Arbitrum, Polygon, and than other standalone chains like Solana you mentioned. There's Freeton out there. They all have NFT capabilities. So I wanted to just expand the answer a little bit for the folks that were asking, so that they don't think NFTs is OpenSea, right? I mean, it's a reflection of NFTs in my opinion. It's a wonderful thing, man. I mean, just go look at it if you haven't. It's amazing. So this next question, I'm just gonna have to take a second. All right, Salim, yes. You're on mute.
Sorry, Michael. Right now, 99% of NFT stuff is on Ethereum, right?
Most of it. Yeah.
What are the next two blockchains that you are seeing that are closest to sophistication, ecosystem depth, etc.?
Yeah, that's hard for me to answer right now. I spend most of my time in Ethereum, but I've seen Solana really ramping up. It's definitely one of the leaders. But what's more important, I think, is the interoperability. So like Dot ecosystem is ramping up with their NFTs, and Terra, and both of those are on interoperable underlying platforms. Cosmos is underlying Terra. I think that people will be able to transfer their NFTs between blockchains eventually. So all this like expensive, like what's next? I think Ethereum's next, because you're gonna be dabbling in all this other stuff just to get your feet wet. But then before you know it, Ethereum 2.0 transaction fees aren't so crazy anymore, hopefully, and then everything's gonna move right back into Ethereum. I think they're the lead. They got the first mover advantage there in a very, very big way.
Awesome. So that was great. I'm with you, Michael. I've become somewhat convinced that Ethereum's the next Ethereum, and the rise of the L2s is going to be fascinating to watch what happens as Ethereum gets their fee structures under control with gas prices and ETH 2.0. I'm not exactly sure what's actually going to happen, but it should be very, very
everyone in a land of interoperability, and that's what that's how you get the Ready Player One world in the metaverse stuff. Is like you start with making blockchains interoperable, and that's the underlying layer, and then you can do it with the games. And now we're crossing between metaverses seamlessly, between games seamlessly, bringing our NFTs with us, having a great time. VR. Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to do a shameless plug here. We've got a community-sourced publication called insights.openexo, and in that one, there are a number of articles written by OpenExO community members right now. Michael, I would invite you to be a guest author for that if you would wish to later, and I can connect you in. We'll put the URL down here. Go check that out, because there have been a number of articles on NFTs and DAOs and blockchains and many other related exponential technologies over there. So check out insight.openexo when you get a chance. And we'll also try to get some sort of a summary of this, and the replay of this event will be available on the video tab of that publication. So please check that out, everybody, if you would. The next question is going to be... Okay, I've been struggling with how to get this question on the screen, so I'm going to try it here. Could an NFT represent my time and exchange with strangers? What an interesting question in a way, right? So what do you guys think?
Can you ask that question once more for me?
Yes. Could an NFT, non-fungible token, represent my time and exchange, the speaking or doing or whatever, with strangers?
There's a concept in Latin America called time banking, where you can basically exchange your time and lend it to people for language learning or other stuff, earn credits, and then spend those credits elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And this seems like an amazingly easy place for NFTs to explode, because lots of people in, it's mechanical Turk type stuff. You can build up tokens, and as long as those tokens have utility elsewhere, you can do something really, really interesting with them. You saw the wave of Chinese prisoners earning World of Warcraft gold in the last generation of that. We see the wave of Filipino families playing a game. That's essentially time banking. So I think this is a massive area that could be exploited.
Yeah, there's a company called Effect.ai that is building up a workforce. Basically, it's like kind of mechanical Turk combined with AI tools as well. So you'll have the best of both worlds, and they're trying to do translation and other jobs as well, and they've been ramping up. So that's one form of trading your time. Yeah, but they're not doing NFTs though. So,
So to you out there, Michael, it seems like the answer is yes. There are multiple ways you can do that. And then also, Michael Jonsson, you mentioned the POAPs. They could be used in a case like this. I really did have that meeting with someone, for example. Would be a really interesting thing, because oftentimes this sort of things are disputed. You know?
I like that idea. That's a really fascinating thing. I haven't thought about that.
Made that up just now. So
I love that.
can we tokenize that, and then they'll know it's my idea? Oh, wait, we could tokenize ideas. We could totally disrupt the patent system with NFTs, couldn't we? Anybody want to do that? Everybody should want to do that, right? So,
absolutely.
And it would be a truly global patent system, wouldn't it? It wouldn't have this weirdness that we have today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's another line sort of in the Q&A here. I've somewhat been avoiding, just so everybody knows out there, sorry, we've had a lot of town halls about decentralized finance, so I've mostly been staying away from the DeFi stuff. We did get a bunch of questions in. I would just refer people, please, back to the previous 9 episodes of this town hall series, especially in particular, someone was asking about impermanent loss in DeFi and risk. Town Hall 6, we had Irina Litchfield, and we talked extensively about risk in decentralized finance. So I please refer you back to Town Hall number 6. You can find that at insight.openexo.com/videos. Scroll down, search for Town Hall 6, or you can go to economy.openexo.com, scroll down, find the video hub. It's in there. So you should have no problem finding that. This is going to shift us back over to DAOs for a second. If someone's going to build a DAO right now, what do we believe? What do you two guys believe would be the best example for emerging DAOs to model? What have you seen out there that's just like, oh, wow?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is what I mentioned earlier, Decentraland. Like they're one of the few successful examples out there. They went from any successful DAO is like this. It's you start centralized, you make a plan, and then you build a really non-toxic community, and then you pass on the torch to the leaders of that community in a productive way. So that's what Decentraland did, and any other community doing that, it's a win in my opinion. You don't just say, we made a DAO, what do you guys want to do? That's not going to work.
Right. Yeah, I just have to add, Decentraland, I've been in and out of there for years. It was so cool when you asked me to go look at your art gallery the other day. I was like, oh my God, a reason to log into Decentraland, right? Because like for a long time, it wasn't much to log in, and it was really hard to get in. But you know what? These days, if you have your MetaMask wallet and it's integrated in your browser, it's like 2 clicks and you're into Decentraland. So why I'm mentioning this, MetaMask is upsetting SSO, which has been dominated by the Googles and Facebooks and Microsofts of the world. I think they're doing something amazing there. And if you look at the work that's being done by Brave with their token and Brave Search, for example, these are all DAOs in a sense, right? They're a type of DAO. And I think those technologies, the way Brave is implementing search, has the potential to disrupt Google's hegemony, because I get paid every month to use the Brave browser. I've earned a significant amount of Brave tokens over time as a result. And you don't think about it while you're clicking, man, it really starts to add up. My kids actually turned me on to that. And then it turned into the best thing ever for the family, because it does a good job of moderating what I would think of as predatory advertising on younger people. Yeah. So really powerful. And that I mentioned that as utility for me. It's utility for me as a parent in a decentralized finance space, Brave, BAT, I mean, wow, right? I mean, come on. This is so ubiquitous. Like you wouldn't even know it was there. Thank you, Hal. Oh, it's great to see you. Great to see you, Hal. I haven't talked to you in a little while. Thanks for joining the show today. So let me see what I've got here. Okay, here's a fun one. The questions nobody ever likes to talk about. Vanessa has asked us, is it illegal if an NFT provides a return on investment to buyers?
I guess that depends on your jurisdiction.
Okay. That's actually more risky for the issuer than the buyer, but yes.
Two buyers.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, and here, Vanessa, this is one of those places where we have to tell you again, we're not providing you investment advice or legal advice or accounting advice, right? We're not doing that. But in most cases, if you read the literature, you'll find, and by that I mean scholarly literature about this topic, you'll find in most cases an inordinate amount of the risk is placed on the issuer, not the buyer. And this is why things like accreditation exist, but accreditation is fundamentally broken in a world of DeFi. Badly broken in DeFi, right? So anyways, that's a tricky one, and we'll have to get some lawyers and accountants and all that on here to take those questions, Vanessa, but I didn't want to skip it. So you can see these are fun things. Remember what I said at the beginning of the panel, Michael? We're all panelists and we're all facilitators. I would like to invite Salim, you and Michael to ask either of the other of us. Do you have any questions, or do you think we should talk about next?
I have a question. Michael, how much of your time do you spend in the Discord channels of these various projects per day to keep yourself on the edge? Because I've seen you at various hours go 2-hour game happening in this thing, go play it so you can collect whatever utility. And so how much of your time have you been spending, let's say over the last 6 months on average per day? Like 20, 40, 60, 80%?
Yeah, that's a varied number. I do a lot of different things, and you have to lead a balanced life. But yeah, during my worst times, definitely like all my time, you gotta keep up what's going on. You want to say hi to your fellow community members. Good morning. Sometimes I'll go in there and just say good morning because I can't be bothered, but at least I want my name to be showing up. Because presence is important in a community. Just like Hal showed up, he's like, "Thanks, guys. That's important," and you recognize Hal for those exact reasons, I'm sure. So yeah. The real answer is my friends spend a lot of time in these communities, and we work as a team. Yeah, and we all keep tabs on these things together. And the only reason I can tell you that something's going on in the middle of the night is because someone else told me that it was happening, not because I'm up watching it. Yeah.
Gotta make an AI for that.
Yeah.
Well, I hit, in one of these communities, it might have been Neo Tokyo, I hit the voice chat button, which is a live conversation amongst all the members who want to participate. And it was literally a 24/7 conversation where people are doing Q&A, asking questions. And it just blew my mind, the amount of sheer buzz and activity going on around that particular project, right? It's really something to go check out in the Discord channels of some of these more popular projects.
Yeah, they talk about the game itself. They talk about taxes with each other. They talk about just structure of other games. They talk about coding. Sometimes they'll just for 2 hours you'll just hear guys like helping each other out with like coding projects. So it's really cool how the community, they call it the Citadel, comes together and just works on different things.
And do you think the metaverse Decentraland type projects are the next natural successor to these types of environments?
Yeah, I think both will always exist, but I think a lot of people would love to transition. The best example that isn't an NFT or anything, but again, it's alt space where you can go in, build your avatar. It's all free, and you can just sort of emote in a way that is almost better than in real life. Like these avatars are maintaining eye contact with me while I'm talking to them. It's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, you could feel much more immersed. And like I've had 2-hour intimate conversations with someone a complete stranger, and like just they can use their hands and their fingers and their eyes, and it's an intimate. It's much more intimate than a voice chat. Voice chats can get pretty crazy. Also with like a spatial audio, like if someone walks away from you, their audio fades out if they keep talking. So people can be in groups and cliques in the same environment talking with each other. And if you don't like what's going on in one conversation, you can just walk over to the next circle of people that are talking about a different topic. So it's really great for conference type of.
Did Decentraland implement spatial audio? I don't know.
I don't think so yet. Okay. Decentraland has a ways to go with audio.
Got it.
Yeah.
Audio.
Go ahead.
It turns out audio's as or more important than video in most cases. It's certainly amazing. Yeah.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay, you were going to say?
I was going to say that alt space is like where I hope some of these metaverses go as far as like the quality and everything they got going on. It's just the organization, creating events, building worlds and connecting with people is just so organized. You can just go to the events page and you can find a myriad, like you want to go to comedy night or do you want to share your music or AA meetings, you name it. There's all sorts of different things going on in alt space. And I think Decentraland is going to become something like that. A little birdie told me that they're going to be enabling VR in Decentraland. And I think once that happens, it's really going to change the game in a big way. Yeah.
I'm also excited to see when some of these things come into augmented reality. And if you put on the right goggles or glasses, we were just hearing some advances about the company out of Miami, Salim, in terms of the work that they're doing on the AR. And all these worlds are going to merge. Gentlemen, we're coming down to the last few minutes. First and foremost, Michael, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today and for sharing your insights and your really unique experiences with our community. Really grateful for that. Salim, thank you for being here today and all the stuff that you do in EXO. I heard little birdie told me you've got another book coming out soon called Exponential Organizations V2. And I'm bringing it up here, and he's shaking his head because I'm doing this because I know he wants me to tell him to finish it. But no, yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's like 70% new content.
People have been asking for an update for years, and I get like hives because the emotional trauma of writing the book the first time around. By the way, Michael is the most famous for doing the brain diagram in the first book and a lot of the charts, etc.
That's right.
So yeah. Michael will get you to stick your oar in somewhere in this new book.
Guys, I've been asked by the community over and over and over, is there going to be any NFT associated with the book? And I'm just like,
I think this is a great question, right? Michael, if just off the top of your head, what would you do as an NFT strategy for the book that's coming out?
Oh, I definitely make like a metaverse, and then you guys all go in there, and we do like book reading sessions together. No, I'm just kind of kidding, but make it fun. Make it fun. We were talking about before about like the mascots, like the lizards and stuff. Like do something that's like cool. People can connect with. You want people to relate with their NFT in some way. So I just want to see like a bunch of animated Salims that are really cute or something like that.
One of our community members generated a bunch of crypto art, and one of them was Salim. I saw it with my own eyes, and it exists. It hasn't been turned into an NFT yet, but these things actually exist. One of our guys was really keen on that particular idea, so love it. Awesome. Any other last words, Michael? You're the specialist guest, so any other last words before I start to take us out?
Yeah, I was sharing that generative art stuff. If anyone wants to play around with that stuff, we're making it more and more available as we roll it out. So that's, I don't know if you guys can bring up the link I put in the private chat. It's like that Discord, put up the whole mess.
There it is.
So yeah, check out that Discord. And that's where you can mess around with it a little bit. And we're going to be evolving over the coming weeks and months.
Michael, you mentioned Tokenly early on in our conversation today as well. Did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, this is actually related directly with Tokenly.
Got it.
We spun off this company called Pixelmind, which is an experimental generative art company. So think of it like an Adobe suite, but for generative art tools that will be opening up for people.
I think I joined the Discord and I'm stuck in the lobby right now. But okay. So listen, everybody, we're going to start to wrap this. We did a lot today. We covered a lot of ground. We covered NFTs. We covered DAOs. We covered books that are coming out. You got to meet Michael, who's the guy who did the very famous brain diagram in the first Exponential Organizations book. We went through some of the legalities and regulatory questions that always come up about and around crypto. We've talked about different NFT marketplaces. We dove into what is an NFT really. Oh my gosh. I mean, we covered a lot of ground today. Just remember, everybody, this week we record and replay over at economy.exoworld.live. I'm sorry, economy.openexo.com and insight.openexo.com. You will be able to find the replays. And with that, I'm going to say thank you one last time to Michael and to Salim for being here. I'm going to bring Nikki back on, hand the baton over, and I'm going to get out of here. This was fantastic fun. Thank you so much, guys.
Bye, guys.
Where are you, Nikki?
All
There you
right,
are.
here I
Nikki,
am. Wow,
Nikki,
wow, wow.
Wait, though, one last round of thanks. Nikki, you and all the team that pulled these town halls off. Nobody sees it behind the scenes, but there is so much going on.
Yes.
There are several people pushing buttons, doing things, moving things, feeding questions, listening to the audience. Thank you so much for that. Don't forget to do the credit roll, and thank everybody else out there, Jillian and Roberto and Kevin, and I know I'm missing things. So thank you to all of you for making this real and making it happen. And all the things you do. So I really want to say that on my way out. And thank you, Nikki. Over to you.
No, I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody showing up. This was a wow conversation. I thought Friday was good. I've watched it 5 times. I think that's when I have to go to double that. So we'll be doubling our efforts in getting this back to you in clips that you can consume. And I just want to thank the whole team. I mean, Jillian and Rodrigo here working in the back end on this live cast. The questions from the audience, my ExO angels. I've got Eric and Vanessa and Angelo and Angela and Pratik and so many people in the background. And I just can't name everybody, but it does truly take a village. And so I appreciate everything. I hope you join us at openexo.com and join our social media tags and just basically subscribe where you can, whatever your consumption is, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We've got a help desk at Discord, and then we've got a conversation thread at Telegram. So join us where you can, and we look forward to seeing you, and be exponential.